702-221-7283. Let's start off with Cyrus. Hello, Cyrus. You're on with Stephanie.
Hi, Cyrus.
Thank you for having me here. Great pleasure.
Upset you, Cyrus.
I just want to say that I did have good conversations on both sides when I was at the Target protest. So I always like to hear all sides. I think, everybody has their reasoning on what they do. When I look at the views that people have, a lot of it is family influence. And when my grandfather tells me that people who identify as gay or what have you as mentally sick, and he was a politician in Iran before the revolution. I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, these aren't just coming from the right. These are just people who have religious views all over the world.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, my belief in that children shouldn't be around drag queens and gays shouldn't talk about sex with children has nothing to do with my faith in God. It has to do everything with every study ever shown says that introducing sexual topics to children at young ages is detrimental to their health, their mental development. I think it's an intentional attack on our children.
Cyrus, let me ask you a question. Do you agree with Stephanie that the Confederate flag means that you're a rebel and a gay pride flag is only talking about a sex like anal sex or something like that? Do you agree with that opinion?
I think we should be fair. I think we should just only allow the American flag and the state flag to be put on the
But are you offended by the Confederate flag, Cyrus? Does it offend you?
It doesn't offend me at all.
I think, Cyrus, you're among many other Americans that it wouldn't offend them either. I agree with you on that. If there was some sort of rule or law where there's no flags allowed in schools at all, then fine, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. But I think most people would look at a gay pride flag as being prideful of who you are if you're gay. And most gay people would say that it's about being happy for who you are, because this is a group of people that have been discriminated against for decades and decades and decades. People have actually died in other countries because they're gay. They're hung in other countries because they're gay. I treat everybody the same.
I've never
regardless of their. I didn't say you did. I treat everybody the same, regardless of their sexuality or the color of their skin. That's the way I was brought up. I don't care what people do on their personal time, and there's zero evidence that drag queen reading abuses kids or sexualizes kids. Zero evidence of that. Would you agree with that, Cyrus?
Cyrus,
do we?
I mean, I guess so. I'm sorry. I have to look clearly. I have to look at the details of what you just told me.
Sure.
But I told the other side of the protest, I said, listen, as long as you don't have a problem with me and other people trying to be straight, that's what matters.
No, the people that I know that are gay, and even people that I know that are transgender, the people that I know have absolutely no problem with straight people. What they have a problem with is people that discriminate against them. And I have a problem with those people also.
But Mr. Shapiro, you don't think that when we've seen the last 60 years, declining marriage rates, when we have lower birth rates, you don't think this is all tied in together? I mean, this is what kind of...
Hold on, you're telling me that you think because the divorce rate is so high, it's because of gay people? What are you saying?
No, I'm saying that the powers that be are pushing, all these agendas at once, and they're taking.
But I'm not sure what
direction.
that has to do with drag queen reading or gay people. I don't think it has. I don't think there's any correlation to that. In fact, there are wonderful gay people that raise children, two men and two women that raise children just fine. So I don't think there's any correlation to that. I think two gay people. I think, Cyrus, two gay people have the same chance of divorcing as two straight people. There's no evidence that would say to the contrary. So I don't think one has anything to do with the other.
I think feminism, who is an intentional.
Hey, Cyrus, I appreciate the call, my man. Thank you very much.
I wanted to talk about one last thing to unite us.
Quickly, because we have other calls. Go ahead.
Yeah, Romney and Bipartisan are looking to raise the minimum wage and E-Verify. Please spread the word about this bill. We need to do that.
I think it's a great bill. It's why I support Mitt Romney, and unfortunately he's heading out of office. But I agree with you. I think raising minimum wage would be a good thing. Thank you for bringing that up, Cyrus.
Thank you.
So the lady we have with us in studio right now, she runs an organization. She helps run an organization called My Children's Advocate. They talk about a lot of different issues. They talk about mask wearing. They're anti-mask wearing. They talk about, for example, drag queen reading. They talk about how, teachers and people are indoctrinating our kids. So I said, all right, I want to get her in studio because I want to talk about these issues because I think these issues are very important, even though we might disagree with them. Her name is Stephanie Kinsley, and she joins us in studio. Stephanie, I do appreciate you being here. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you being here. And as I've said from the beginning, we're probably not going to agree on everything, but that's fine. That's okay. I like a good spirited debate, and we just had a nice conversation off the air about that, so I appreciate you being here. Let's get down to the to the beginnings of this. Tell me about your group. What is My Children's Advocate?
So, My Children's Advocate was actually founded by Lorena, who should be here shortly. She was at another event this morning as well. So, and it was just a group of parents who, at the beginning of COVID, saw what was happening, saw the lack of care for the children is really what it came down to. It was insanity with COVID and the mandates and that. It was They lacked sense. They were non-science. They were nonsense. And then seeing that pushed on the kids was really, it was extremely triggering for me. And so how I got involved is I went to one of the school board meetings and Lorena and some other members were there and they gave me a card. We exchanged numbers and then we just started meeting up at a cafe over in Summerlin and we started meeting up and going to school board meetings, and that's really where it kicked off.
Cool. Okay, so I want to get to we can get to the COVID stuff in a little bit, and we can get to mask wearing and get into a debate on that. Let me start with the other side of things, which I don't think has anything to do with medical stuff, but you spoke a lot. I saw you at Bill Conrad came in studio here running for office, and you spoke a lot about drag queen reading,
Yes.
right?
That's
Okay,
one of the
so
things up there
explain.
exciting.
Okay, so tell me about that. What is it about drag queens reading to kids that upsets you so much?
Well, and I'm saying this is a 42-year-old woman who's born and raised in Las Vegas. I've been in gay bars. The drag queens and the transgenders were always the ones in the corner that no one wanted to deal with. So for it to now be, why would we wouldn't take children to a drag bar, so why are we now bringing drag queens to children?
Well, because at a bar they serve alcohol and it's illegal for kids to be going into a bar.
But also having a man with autogynephilia dressed as a cartoon of a woman in front of children. First of all, drag queens are inherently over sexual. They usually have boobies hanging out.
Have you been to a drag queen reading?
I haven't been to a reading, no, but we know what drag queens are. We can Google any drag.
Right, but a drag queen reading.
But
obviously, there are drag queens that are going to do
drag queens. Like,
Right.
why don't we have strippers reading to kids?
Well, because strippers, if you go to a strip club, you have to be of a certain age, and strippers are half naked. The drag queen reading that I went to, because I wanted to find out about it a few months ago. I think what you're talking about is, in general, drag queens, and 18 and over and 21 and over, in my opinion, are very different than a drag queen reading where, first of all, I went to one and there was nothing talked about that was sexual.
They're trying to normalize autogynephilia and this weird. First of all, I really feel like women are being erased. I feel like, like Bruce Jenner was a woman for like 10 minutes and gets to be Woman of the Year and all this stuff. It's such a joke how we're erasing women. And if I did what trans and drag do with women, if I did that with a race, I'd be hung from like a building as a punishment.
So let me ask you a question. I would never take the right away from you if you didn't want. I don't know if you have kids. Do you have kids? Okay, you do. Okay, I would never take that right away from you. You have the right not to take your kids to drag queen reading, right? I think it's a right of someone if they do or if they don't. I would never take that right away from you. So here's my fundamental question. And I think it's an important one. I think it's great that you care about kids and that you care about a kid's well-being. I think any reasonable person would appreciate that. I believe you're coming from the right place, and I would never take. I really truly believe that. I think you're being genuine about that. But if we're talking about kids and child safety, which I think, as I mentioned, you're being very genuine about, what are the leading causes of death in kids?
First of all, that's the off topic.
Why? We're talking about kids' safety.
No. It's probably, first of all, it was probably, I don't know. It's probably, I actually read this one and it's something like home injuries or guns, but it's also, that's including kids up to like 17. So it's a very disingenuous. But regarding the drag queens and why they're bad to have around children is they're inherently sexual. You can't say
But the drag queen reading that I went to, there was nothing sexual about it. It was downtown.
Drag queens are inherently sexual.
But I think this is important. because we're talking about children's safety, which I agree with you. I think we would all agree it's a very important topic. And when I ask you, what's the leading cause of death in kids? What is the big harm with children today? I asked you that. And
I don't get what that has to do with drag queens.
Because we're talking about children's safety, and that's what My Children's Advocate is all about, protecting our children. Don't you think that's important?
So
I'm asking you, and I'll tell you what
I can't protect them from household injuries. What's the number one cause, Brian?
Okay, so this is research. This is research, and firearms were involved in more child deaths in 2020 and 2021 than any other cause. This is fact.
And that includes kids up to 17.
Correct. Well, I would consider a 16-year-old person a kid.
And
whether
do you know
they're
how
8
many
or
of those are gang related?
What does it matter whether it's gang related? This is a problem that kids are facing.
Okay. Yeah.
So if it's gang related, we should just throw it away and say, hey, you know what? What does it matter because it was gay? I don't care the color of their skin. I don't care if they're gay or straight. Our kids are dying at the hands of gun violence, and I'm surprised that you don't ever talk about that.
It's not. Well, what we do speak about is keeping families together, single mother homes being destructive to children, and how we need fathers back in the homes. And I guarantee,
and that's all important.
And those deaths, because the majority of those gun deaths are kids who are teenagers participating in gun violence, and that wouldn't be happening if we had more fathers in the home and less single mother households.
So you think all the gun violence in this country is because we don't have fathers in the home?
I think a lot of the anger in this country and the kids who are in gangs and these kids are full of rage.
The kid in Uvalde, Texas, who shot all those people was not in a gang. The kid in Buffalo was not in a gang.
But the 22 black men killed every day in this country are killed by gang violence.
What does it matter whether it's black or white? Gun violence is. Why are you bringing up the color of their skin?
The majority of the people who are killed every day in gun violence are black males from fatherless homes.
So
we could take it to any color.
I'm trying to understand what the color of somebody's skin has to do with this conversation.
Okay, but it's mostly gang violence. So we could take the race out of it and say it's mostly males who are dying every...
What percentage of all the kids that have died in this country are from gun violence? Do you have that statistic?
I don't have that statistic.
You don't have it?
I don't have the statistic
so you
of
can
every
get back
kid
to me.
touched
Okay,
by
fair enough.
a drag queen either.
Are you a religious woman?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say...
Christian woman?
Christian
good
woman,
Christian woman.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm a good Christian.
Are you aware that over 2,000 kids have been molested, sexual abuse in the Catholic clergy? If you're, in a way, campaigning anti-transgenders, or I'm sorry, cross-dressers or drag queen reading to our kids, why wouldn't you tell kids not to go to church? Over 2,000 kids have been molested. I wouldn't say
kids not to go to church. What I would say is the Catholic Church, when they, instead of moving those people just like they do in the schools, and I've actually spoken about this if you've heard me speak, that it's just as evil for the Catholic Church to move around pedophiles as it is for these school districts to move around pedophile teachers.
I agree with you.
So I want evil eradicated everywhere.
But I agree.
But I'm not a Catholic. Okay. I don't go to a Catholic church. So what I do have is kids in the school district, and I can go to them and say, please stop having stop having your weirdo teachers sexualize my children.
I understand. You're also not a drag queen, and you don't go to drag queen reading either. You're telling people not to go to that. Parents to not bring their kids to that.
I would tell parents not to take their child to a place anywhere where the children are going to be sexualized. Because every study ever done, when children are introduced to sexual topics at a young age, it's devastating.
But I'm telling you that, and I don't know what study you're referring to, but I'm telling you, I went to a drag queen reading. Okay,
yes,
unlike
and it's not the book they're
hold on,
reading.
Let me just explain. I went to a drag queen reading. You didn't go to one. I did because I wanted to learn. Nothing was sexualized. The only message that I heard was, be happy for who you are and treat everybody with respect. The kids were having fun. The parents were having fun. Hey, guess what? I had fun. I'm a straight 43-year-old male. Everybody had a really good time. There was nothing sexualized, and I don't see anything wrong with it. Now, we can disagree on that. Yeah. That's fine.
We're normalizing men with autogynephilia like it's normal.
But I'm giving you a statistic of over 2,000 kids that have been molested at churches, and
I think that's awful.
We agree on that.
What can I do about that?
Well, I would like you to talk a little bit more about that. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Can you give me one example of one drag queen reading where a child was killed or sexually assaulted? Just one case across the country.
Because it's happening in front of everybody. But
give me one example.
Have been dozens of these drag queen members who have a sexual record.
That's not what I asked you. That's not what I asked you.
You can't say, but it's also these teachers.
I can say because over 2,000.
You're being disingenuous.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you about.
You're being very disingenuous.
I'm being actually the opposite of that. I'm asking you for one specific case because you're so against this drag queen.
Normalizing.
But you can't give me one example of a kid that has been sexually abused at a drag queen reading or affected at all. You can't give me one example.
This is step one of grooming. I've never said that they're getting touched at the grooming. Please let me explain. Let me finish before you interrupt with your disingenuous argument.
I'm not being disingenuous at all. I think you
very
are.
much are.
No, I'm not, ma'am.
Because the whole thing,
With all due respect.
just like we've pointed out, red flags for grooming. So just like if your priest is grooming your child and the red flags for that, where it's a lot about keeping secrets, isolating the children.
But priests have been charged. They've been convicted.
Okay, good. We want
Nobody's been convicted at a drag queen reading. Where's your evidence?
Not at the reading. And this is where you're being disingenuous. There have been a number of drag queens who go to these readings, do the reading, and they themselves have a sexual record of abusing children.
There's people that are not drag queens that sexually abuse kids.
Then
What's your point?
Okay, here, then you explain to me why it's normal to take kids around who in this room really thinks that drag queens aren't inherently sexual? They're a caricature
We're not
of women.
talking about that. We're talking about specifically
But we're
drag queen
normalizing-
reading
yeah.
to children. We're not
You're
talking about.
normalizing. It's just the same like I wouldn't want an OnlyFans worker who's
There's
like, hey,
people, but there's people, you know this, there's people that are not drag queens, that are not gay, that are sexual abusers as well, and you're trying to pinpoint that it's only the drag queen readers.
No.
I just gave
No,
you over
not the readers.
But I just gave
Not
you
just
over
that.
2,000 cases. This
parents
isn't
that
an
take 'em
opinion,
there
it's a
too.
fact, and we agree on this. It's a fact that over 2,000 kids have been sexually molested by the clergy. And many of them, probably
I think that's
more that we
but I
don't.
don't get what that has to do with
Because I have
what I'm
facts for you, and you can't give me one case of somebody that was sexually abused from drag queen
but
reading.
that's like
Yet you're
saying-
so against it.
No, but that's like saying were those kids molested in the middle of church? No, what those priests did was made their weird relationship and abused the children on the
Okay,
own.
so give me an example of a drag queen reader that has read books to kids, and somebody allows them to read books to kids that has sexually molested children in the past.
Okay,
Can you give me an
there-
example of that?
But there's dozens of those drag people who have read at the Drag Queen Story Hours.
So give me a name so I can look it up.
I'm sorry
Do
I
you kn-
didn't bring my list with me.
Okay,
I didn't come.
But you talk about this stuff all the time, and all I want to do is get evidence of what you're talking about, because
How
I'm a
about-
fact-based
Okay.
person. Hold on, you're telling me, and I'm just hearing what you're saying because I am listening to you. You're saying that there are people that do drag queen reading, some of these people that have
raped
molested
children,
kids
have
and raped
raped
kids.
and molested
And what I'm
children.
asking you is evidence of a person that people have allowed in a shop or wherever to do drag queen reading that is a known pedophile. Can you give me a specific example of that?
Panda Eyes. That was one of the people.
What's Panda Eyes?
He was one of the drag queens who did one of these readings,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually got broken up by Proud Boys, and that was a whole big thing. He was just one of the names I can remember. They all have dirty.
So does this
names.
one? I don't know who Panda Eyes is, but I'll take your word for it.
yeah.
Is this person still allowed to do drag queen reading to kids?
No,
That's a
but he
known
was
pedophile?
allowed to do that one.
And
because
as
they
the-
didn't care to
okay,
do background
so-
checks on these people.
Okay, so we have one person, and again, I'll go back
But
and I'll
that
look
happened
at it.
dozens of times throughout this. You know what, Brian? If I had known I had to come with statistics and names,
Okay, so let me
I
be
would've
clear.
come
Let me
different.
be clear on this.
But I'm
If
trying to
somebody
explain
has
my
molested
thought.
kids,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah, I think they should be hung.
they're not allowed around kids.
By their neck.
My understanding is if you've molested children and you're out of jail,
Mm-hmm.
and I agree with you with that. If you molest kids, yes, I agree. You probably,
Yes.
I'm with you on that. If there are a few examples out there of somebody that didn't do their due diligence, and I'm giving a hypothetical here, like what you're giving right now, of somebody that molested a child, which is the worst thing in the world you can do to somebody, in my opinion, and then they were allowed to read books to kids, yes, I agree with you. That's inappropriate and it shouldn't happen. But again, we go back to what I'm saying earlier. If you want to make the case, hey, you know what? People need to do their due diligence. If we're going to have drag queen reading to kids,
Why do drag
Okay.
queens want to read to kids?
okay, but the
Because
overwhelming.
that backs my story up. The reason they want to read to kids is the reason I don't want them reading to kids. They're trying to make their weird caricature of a woman, which is over sexualized, whether you want to admit that on air or not.
I don't think it's
can
sexualized at all.
Okay, Google,
Not at drag queen
Google
reading. I
10
disagree.
drag queens right now. Google 10 drag queens right now. Let's look up what they look like. Let's look what they go by. They go by sexual names, like talking about genitals, and I don't know.
Okay, but
what
we're
his
not.
name
But again, if
Sir,
you're
but you're
speaking,
not being-
we're
yes.
talking about
The
again
same reason we
drag
don't have
queen reading.
strippers read to kids is the
Okay.
same way drag queens
It's a
shouldn't read to
horrible,
kids.
in my opinion, it's a horrible analogy that you're making, and here's why. First of all, strippers,
Are
strip
sexual.
clubs, yes, of course they are.
Just
But
like
guess
drag
what?
queens.
But guess what? in strip clubs, you have to be at least 18 and over. In some clubs,
Just like in drag
21,
clubs.
but not with drag queen reading to kids.
Oh, so if I had a stripper come to the library and read, they wouldn't
Guess
need
what?
to be.
Guess what? If the stripper was wearing normal clothing, I would have absolutely no problem with
I
it.
think it's gross
I don't care.
to have
Okay.
sexual topics around
Okay,
children.
but again, drag queen reading to kids, there's the ones that I went to, there was nothing sexual, so I don't know why you keep saying
Okay,
that.
but you keep going back saying that they're reading sexual books. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that we're normalizing what. Can we agree that the drag queens are a weird minority?
No,
and
you think it's weird.
Okay,
you're treating
a
people
minority.
differently because they're not like you.
they're a minority.
So we should
Because
treat people differently because they're minorities?
No, but it's a minority of the community that can't. I'm guessing doesn't have kids of their own, and yet they want to come to read to my kids.
Then
And-
don't bring them. Don't bring them. You
But
have the
why
right.
do
You're an
you-
American.
Okay, yeah, but
Why
it's
do you
also-
why do you want to tell other parents what to do?
Because I don't want grooming of children to
In
be
your
allowed, but
opinion, they're being groomed.
They are being
and-
groomed because it's.
I
it's
disagree.
the same way. I
So
don't
what are you
get it.
saying? You saying if a 4-year-old kid gets read a book by
Have
someone
you seen these drag queen story hours?
unlike you, I've
twerking?
been to one. You haven't even
Okay.
gone to any.
How many have you seen of these people twerking and
Not a
gyrating?
drag queen reading to
Yes,
kids.
at schools it's happened. It's happened in schools in this country. What are you talking about?
So in schools in this country, you're saying there's not only drag queen reading, but they're
This is happening.
sexualizing. Where?
They've-
Give me an example.
You can.
Where?
you-
Where are drag
okay.
queens
There
twerking,
has
and that's
been-
allowed in a school?
There has been dozens of
Where?
viral videos across. Okay, again,
I don't care about a
Brian,
viral video. I want background on where it happened. I
And
don't
then
care if
that
there's a
was the
viral
whole thing
video.
where school boards were being sued because this was happening behind the parents' back. That these drag queens and it's always drag. You know how drag queens.
You
dress.
haven't
It's
been to a drag queen reading. I wish you would go.
I also haven't been to Auschwitz, but I know it was bad. I don't
Okay, so
understand
hold
why
on
I
a
have to
second.
be
Hold on
there.
a second, because I'm Jewish. Let's
Okay.
since you just brought up a can of worms there. You're comparing. Okay, I'm going to
No,
try.
I'm not comparing.
Hold on.
I'm saying I know evil when I see it.
I'm going to try to be calm here.
But I
Brian,
will say
Brian's
the
gonna-
Nazis would love what you guys are
Brian's-
doing with horror, with traumatizing children. I would say the Nazis
Okay,
would love what you're doing.
I'm going to try to be calm.
Okay, try.
It's going to be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, with all due respect,
Oh,
to
come at
compare
me.
7 million Jews that were murdered to a
not what
drag queen. Why would you bring Nazi Germany up in a conversation
Well,
like this
I can
and compare
connect
that?
it to this if you would let me finish.
You want to compare
I'll
Nazi Germany
I'll
to
connect
drag queen
Nazis.
reading?
I'll connect
You
Nazis.
probably don't want to do that.
I'll connect Nazis to this. I will.
Murderers. You want to
No.
compare murderers.
Brian,
Nazis or
will you
murderers.
please let me finish a sentence?
Well,
this
if you're gonna bring up Nazi
Okay,
Germany,
I'll
then I'm
bring
not
up
interested in talking to you.
Okay. Well, the Nazis love to torture kids, and they did a lot of studies on how sexualizing children. We can talk about Mengele and all the studies they did. Now, tell me
Okay, yeah,
that
we're not gonna do that
mutilizing
'cause
children's
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, we're
That's
mutilating
absurd.
children's genitals now.
We're talking about drag queen
Which
reading to
leads to
kids.
children
drag
being
queen,
mutilated.
No, it does
Yes,
not.
it
That's
does.
absurd.
No, it's not.
So a 4-year-old goes in and gets drag queen reading, and then all of a sudden he walks out of there saying, he or she says, "Hey, you know what? I want to be the other gender. Let's have transgender surgery."
It's a way.
the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my
It's a way to
life.
confuse people.
That's absurd.
It's a way
Can you
to
give me an
confuse
example?
children.
Because I keep asking you for examples. Can you give me an example of a child, a young child, that went into drag queen readings and walked out of there and got transgender surgery and said, "I got transgender surgery because of drag queen reading"? Can you
Okay,
give me one
Brian,
example?
You know
of that?
that's a very disingenuous
Then don't
question.
say it. You're the one
That's
being disingenuous.
No, you are.
Don't say something like that unless you have evidence to back it up. That's not happening.
Okay, you know, normalizing.
Where? Give me an
weird-
example.
Brian, you don't let me finish a sentence.
You're
You
saying things
make-
that are
You make the
absurd.
most absurd questions. Your questions are absurd.
You just made the claim, not me.
No, I'm saying what Drag Queen Story Hour does is normalize men with autogynephilia and over-sexualization of women. It's a weird caricature where it's erasing women, where men can be women, and it's very confusing to little children when they see grown men dressed as a woman, and they're confused by it.
So, Stephanie,
and it's confusing children, and it's unhealthy.
I think what I'm doing is very, very reasonable in this aspect. When you make claims like that, I am a fact-based person. So, example, when you say or make the claim, allegedly, that there are kids going to drag queen readings that are getting transgender surgery because of going to a drag queen reading.
You know, that's
hold on,
not
let me
what
finish.
I said. You're being very
Let me
disingenuous.
finish.
You're not.
You're
repeating what I said.
correlating
Yes.
kids. Okay, I mean, do I need to repeat it? You're making the correlation that kids going to drag queen reading is why some of these kids are getting transgender surgery. And hold on.
Normalizing
Okay,
it.
okay.
Yes.
And what I am asking you is a very fair question, which is, if you make a claim like that, give me an example. I mean, I'm speaking.
Okay, but you're being so silly with saying
That's-
one kid who went to
I'm being
one.
silly.
Okay,
You're
fine.
making. Hold on. Let me just finish, and then I promise you, I will not interrupt you. I
Okay.
promise you, I will not. When
Try.
you make a claim like that, you have to have facts, meaning examples of kids after they have a transgender surgery that say it could be a month later, a year later, or maybe the parents say it. I had a transgender surgery because I was read a book by a drag queen. I'm asking you for an example, which you do not have.
That's not what I'm saying in the first place. I'm not saying going to one drag queen story hour is changing the child. I already made that very clear. I already said, obviously, the drag queen's not molesting the children in front of everybody in the library. What I've been very clear about is drag queen story hour it's normalizing it's normalizing erasing women. It's not normal.
You're wrong.
Men with autogynephilia dressing up as women and getting off on it and wanting to do that around children. How about you bring a drag queen and have him explain to me
I'd love to.
why he needs
I'd love to. I'll invite you to do that.
who
So here's my
dress up
problem.
and gyrate for my child and why he needs
So
my
here's my problem. You're
child's
making the
approval.
assumption that every drag queen is reading books to kids because it's sexual to them.
Why are
And you
other drag queens
and
speaking out
do you
about
have any
it?
drag queens that are friends of
Who's
yours
the-
or anybody
No,
that you,
I don't hang
so
out
you
with
don't.
mentally ill people.
Okay. And now you're making, hold on, let's stop there. So you're making the claim now that everybody who dresses in drag is mentally ill.
Everyone who
Guess
thinks
what?
they're the opposite
Guess
gender
what?
is.
For Halloween, I
Okay.
dressed in drag. I'm not
Okay.
mentally ill. Do you think I'm mentally ill?
I think if you
Yeah, I'm mentally ill because I dress in drag.
okay,
Okay. I'm interviewing her, not you, ma'am. I'll interview you
I think you're being
after.
very, again, you're not being authentic with your questions.
If a man
Dressing-
dresses in drag,
dressing is-
they're all mentally ill.
I'm saying a man who thinks he's a woman.
That's not what I asked you.
Okay,
You just said
but
that.
you're saying dressing in drag on Halloween.
Okay,
Again,
there
that's
are
not
drag
a genuine
queens,
on.
there are
that's
men
not
who are
genuine.
drag queens that don't consider themselves
And
women.
that
You
used
do
to be
understand
that
that,
used
right?
to be the case where we didn't have
I had
to
a drag
pretend
queen
they
that
were
was
women.
sitting in your chair last month because I actually, unlike you, interview these people and I get to know them and I want to learn about them. Unlike you, who has not been to a drag queen reading and you don't know any drag queens at all, but yet you make all these gross assumptions about them. And that man that was sitting right there, I asked him that very question. He identifies as a man. He's not a man. He does it once in a while, dresses up as a woman because he enjoys it. Nothing sexual about what he's doing. And that's what he told me. So you're making
Nothing
it.
is that- he
You're
has
making it.
autogynephilia. And
Okay,
you wanna
well, are
pretend
you a
he's-
doctor or do you
No,
have?
but that's what that is.
Okay, well, I'm just
Stop
asking.
acting like a man dressing up. It's a woman.
Do you have any medical degrees to make that
No,
assertion?
I don't. I'm just a
Okay,
lonely
you
little
don't.
housewife.
I didn't say that
but
about you.
it's not normal and healthy to
So
have children around men
I just want to
dressed
be
as
clear.
women.
I just want, you're entitled to your opinions, but I just want to be clear. You're making an assertion, a mental
Mm-hmm.
condition about every single drag queen, and I want to be clear,
I'm
Stephanie.
sure, no,
you're
because
entitled
some
to
of
your
them are
opinions.
normal and speaking out
You're-
about this.
you're
A
ent-
lot of drag queens are speaking out saying it's not normal to take your kids to drag.
Okay, well, there are
Drag
some
queens
people
shouldn't-
that
yeah.
would say that it is normal and there's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
it. So
because
I don't really
they're
care.
grooming their children. There's
Okay,
also some
that's your
parents who
opinion.
sell their children, and
Okay,
I think those
so-
parents need their hard
So
drives
now
investigated.
so are you saying
Yes.
that now all parents that bring their kids to
Yes,
drag queen
that
readings
one
tell
I
their
will
kids?
say. No, I will say they need
Okay.
their hard drive investigated. I do
Okay.
think they need investigated
So are
by
there,
CPS.
are there people that don't bring their kids to drag queen that also
I'm-
maybe?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm-
Okay.
yeah.
Just want to be
Like
clear on
the
that.
Duggar
Okay.
family.
Okay.
They should have
Okay.
they
so
needed CPS
there are.
involved.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
glad we agree on that. So
I'm not saying only drag
Okay,
queens
but here's
are
my
child
issue again.
molesters. I'm just
You-
saying there's probably a
Right.
disproportionate
So
amount
I-
of child molesters who want to dress up as a woman and read to children.
and there are child molesters who also don't dress in drag that molest children, Republicans and Democrats,
Yes,
right?
but
We can agree on that.
We do agree across the board that pedophiles find ways to weasel their way into kids, just like the priests do, and just like some weird teachers
But I don't
do.
hear you
And
going after the church. I haven't
I'm
heard
not
you talk about
Catholic.
that. Doesn't
I-
matter
I
when you're
want
Catholic.
all
You're not a
pedophiles.
transgender.
I'm all. No,
But you
I
talk
want
about
all pedophiles killed.
Okay,
across
but
the
I don't
board.
hear you. I don't see you guys picketing outside a church. Over 2,000 kids have been molested.
If I knew a priest at this church in this Las Vegas was molesting children, getting away with it, guarantee you we would be there.
I don't hear you
but that's
talking
not the
about it,
ca-
though.
Okay, am I supposed to? I also don't talk about diabetes. Just because you don't hear me talk about it doesn't mean I don't have
If
an
you're a
opinion on it.
diabetic, you don't molest kids just because you're a diabetic. So
Oh,
I don't
God,
know
what-
why you would talk about
That
that.
had nothing to do.
Well, why are
with
you bringing up diabetes? I don't understand.
I'm bringing
We're talking
up the
about
most
kids.
random topic
We're talking
I could
about
talk
kids,
about.
right? We're
Okay,
talking about kids.
I don't want children to have diabetes,
Okay.
but I
well,
don't.
we're talking
I
about
don't
my
reach out
children's
that.
advocate. You care about the safety of kids.
Yes.
You're a mother.
Yes.
And I'm
And I don't
bringing
want
up
them
the
being,
church.
sexualized.
I'm bringing up the church because I can give you over 2,000 examples of kids that were sexually abused and molested, and you can't give me one example of a child that was molested or abused at a drag queen reading.
Nobody was molested in a library in front of everybody. You're right, Brian. You got me. So drag queens are great and healthy to have around kids.
All right. Well, we'll interview you after. We'll do one interview at a time.
That's also what I said earlier. Is there was no kids molested during the sermon.
You
either.
don't.
So
you can't,
again, your argument doesn't hold water.
Okay.
It's a silly argument. It doesn't hold water.
You're the one making claims without facts to back up your opinions, and you're
saying
what I'm saying doesn't hold water. That's absurd.
Sexual topics like
it's
drag
not happening in drag queen reading to kids.
The drag queen itself is a sexual creature. It is.
We're all sexual creatures. What are you talking about?
They're sexual. They're over sexual. They have.
I went to
a
one.
man with fake breasts on. You don't
The
think that
drag queen reading that I went to, there was no men with fake breasts.
I think anyone who supports Drag Queen Story Hour needs their hard drive investigated immediately.
Okay.
Anybody across the board.
I can tell you that I think anybody that is that's insulting, by the way, what you're saying, because I went to one myself.
To want children
well,
around sexual.
I think it's insulting
people.
to make judgments about an entire group of people when you don't know one of them and you've never been to one of these before.
I also don't hang out with strippers, but I don't want them reading to kids either.
Okay, making an analogy like the ridiculous analogies that you've made, Nazi
That's
Germany.
Ridiculous.
You've said Nazis. You've compared strippers.
No,
to,
I said Nazis
to drag
would
queen
love
reading.
what the
It's
Democrats
absurd.
do with mutilating children's vaginas.
Okay, so it's Democrat. Okay.
No,
so you're making it political.
You know it's a left lean. You know it's a Democrat thing to push the LGBT.
Were they all Democrats in the clergy?
I don't know what the Republican.
You don't know.
I don't know what that. I don't know how they vote.
So only Democrats.
As the priests.
Only Democrats.
No. What side is pushing the LGBTQ alphabet agenda? It's the Democrats. We know that.
Name me something that's pushing something.
I mean, having it be on every cartoon they're pushing, every movie they're pushing, every commercial.
So something in a movie is pushing something?
Everything. Are you really going to tell me mainstream media?
You have a problem with gay people?
No, only when they want to talk about their gay lifestyle with children. Then I think that's super weird.
Who's doing that?
Anyone who waves a rainbow flag, because
waving a rainbow flag saying it's okay.
That whole thing saying this is how I have sex.
You know what I think
that's
weird.
You know what I think is unhealthy.
You know what I think is unhealthy? Waving a Confederate flag. I think that's pretty bad. You know what?
I don't.
When I see somebody waving
a rebel flag,
when I see somebody
cared 5 years ago.
When I see somebody waving
Dukes of Hazzard war, no one cared then, but now we do.
Okay, so you're okay with the Confederate flag?
I have no problem. I have no. You know what? I don't mind people saying they're rebels against the system. What I do have people is when they want to normalize having how they have sex and discussing that with
Stephanie, I just want to be clear on the record here.
You're not trying to be clear. You're trying to be very disingenuous.
I'm not disingenuous at all.
People were, yes, you are.
I'm not being. I'm asking you questions.
At one story hour was our kid molested? No, just like
not one story hour, all the story hours.
Okay, name one sermon where a child was molested.
Sure. I've got it right here in front of me. I've got it right here in front of me. Would you like to see it? See, unlike you, I do my research.
Let me hear about
all across the country.
Burn this church down if everyone sat there.
So there have been 451 Catholic clergy. But I want to get. I will finish this, but I want to ask if I can get out the question that I wanted to ask you, because I just want to be on the record here as asking you this. You're okay with the Confederate flag, but you're not okay with a rainbow flag. I just want to get you on the record as saying that.
I'm not. Which one's sexual? Which one talks about?
I didn't ask you that. Are you okay with the Confederate flag?
I'm not offended by the Confederate flag.
So Stephanie is okay with the Confederate flag.
I'm not offended by it.
But gotcha. She's okay with the Confederate flag, but she's not okay with the gay pride flag.
I think you know what? I used to be. Yeah. Woo. That's great. I think it's really weird. I used to be much more supportive of the LGBTQ alphabet.
You sound very supportive. Yes.
I used to be. My whole life. I've gotten into fights with people in our group saying people are born this way. But now at this point, when I see so many people who need to shove their sexual identity down,
not happening in drag queen reading.
It's happening in our schools.
Where's it being shoved? Vegas. Give me an example.
Every time teachers hang up all their flags, their trans flags, their bracelets.
So you think that's shoving it?
Yes, I do.
A flag.
Okay, you'd be
saying it's okay to be gay. You think that's a really bad message to tell people?
I think it's weird to tell kids about sex in the first place. At young
I didn't ask that. That wasn't my question. That was not my question, and that's not being taught in schools. Anal sex. That's ridiculous.
Oh, I think you should check into it.
Then give me an example. You don't have any examples of anything.
You should go to the school board.
So let me be clear on this. Saying it's okay to be gay or putting up a gay flag, a gay pride flag, You think that's a
kids
bad
shouldn't be
message to
having sex,
people?
period.
That's
So
not what I
kids are
asked you.
sexual.
You're not answering my question.
For
Saying
adults,
it's
it's okay. For adults, it's okay.
That's
For
not what
children, it's weird.
So saying it's okay to be gay is a horrible message for kids. Is that what
You
you're
know,
saying?
I've never said it's horrible. You know that it's a social contagion. This whole trans LGBTQ
That's
stuff.
not what I asked you.
No, and what I'm saying is all these teachers, and we see this here in this city, the more you push it to have the flags up, the more kids in that school identify as gay. Who's the one
So
teacher?
you're telling me that if a 14-year-old kid, let me give out an example.
Jamie,
Let me
yeah.
hold on. Let me give out an example. So you're telling me if a 14-year-old or 15-year-old kid goes to school and they see a gay pride flag, they're going to turn gay. That's
it's
the dumbest.
not
That's
just that.
ridiculous.
It's normalizing the weird sexual culture.
How about
where everything's
normalizing and
sexual.
treating everybody as equals, regardless of what their sexuality
That's
is? Have you
so
ever
funny
thought of that
because
before?
The left says that a lot, and they're the first
I'm not the
to get
left.
violent
Is that
and throw
that-
stuff.
okay? I'm not going to get
You
into
just
your
seem
thoughts
very
on
leftist.
Democrats.
I'm sorry.
No, I
I'm
seem like
sorry.
I care about people,
No,
and I want
you
to treat
don't.
everybody
You
as
don't.
equals.
You
Okay.
seem like you have very
Well, you seem
disingenuous arguments.
if you want to call me disingenuous, then I'm going to say some of your views are bigoted. Okay, I don't want to go there with you.
yeah.
Okay, but if you're going to say you sound like this, then we can have that conversation. I don't want to with you. I don't want to get personal with you.
No,
so I'd like
let's-
to continue
let's-
where we're going.
if you want to
I'm
say
not a
what-
Democrat. I'm a registered independent. I voted for 8 Republicans in the 2022 election.
You're the one trying to make it Republican,
excuse
Democrat on
excuse me,
molesting
excuse
people.
me, excuse me. I'm not done yet. I voted for 8 Republicans in the 2022 election. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. But I treat
That's-
everybody as equals in this country.
Not voting for
regardless,
Hillary Clinton is
regardless
not voting
of,
for a term.
excuse me, regardless, I want to treat everybody as equals. You don't.
No, you say, yeah.
One interview at a time, okay?
But-
One interview at a
But
time.
you're saying that, but though every study ever done says in introducing sexual topics, which the LGBTQ
It doesn't
flag-
happen in drag queen reading. You keep
Okay,
saying
it's
that.
happening. Yes, it's sir. I don't understand how to explain.
You haven't been to a drag queen reading. You don't
I've
even know
seen
any
drag queens
queens.
in bars. I've seen
Kids
them up
aren't
close.
allowed in bars.
That's why they shouldn't be. That's why the same
You're
way.
comparing drag queens
the
in
same
bars
way
where they
drag
serve
queens-
alcohol and strippers to drag queen reading? It's
Same
absurd.
way we wouldn't take a kid to a drag bar, even if it was.
It's illegal.
No, even
They
if
serve
they didn't-
alcohol
even if
there.
they didn't
There are
serve
adults
alcohol.
there.
And the same thing. The mothers of these children are taking their kids to these drag queen sorority hours because they're mostly women.
You haven't
with-
even been to one.
We've
How
been
could you make
outside
that
of them. I
judgment?
saw them.
Oh, because you've been outside of one picking in with a sign. That means you know what goes on?
I see these women. I have them in my family. I know these people who take their kids to these drag queen story hours. They're these lefty weirdos. Yeah, we also fight for anti-abortion, but I see these women in my own personal life, and they're the same people.
Mm-hmm. You
who
just
will
said you don't have
sacrifice-
any relationships with any drag queens. You don't know who.
I,
any,
no,
you don't talk
I'm
to any
saying
of
the
them, and you don't
women
know any
who
of them.
take their kids to drag queen story hours. I know them. I have plenty of them in my family, and I'm telling you, they're never mentally well people. They're always women who abuse. To me, it's child abuse.
Can I be honest with
Mm-hmm.
you? I think since you want to talk about mentally well people, I think people that pick it outside of Target because they have nothing better to do with their time are mentally ill people. I
If
think
I
people,
had
hold on, I'm
nothing
not done
better to
yet.
do, yeah.
You just made judgments on people, so now I'm going to make some judgments.
Okay.
People that have their MAGA flags in the back of their cars and think Donald Trump is the second coming. People that would support a liable rapist. People that wake up on a Saturday
that's so
or Sunday
BS.
morning. I know you think it's BS. People that wake up on a Saturday or
ignore
Sunday
Bar-
morning.
yeah.
People that wake up on a Saturday or Sunday morning with kids that think, I know what I want to do with my time. I want to harass customers at a Target store because I don't like what they're selling. Those people are mentally ill.
Target was selling sexual items.
So you were one of those
children.
people, right?
I
You
was
were
one of
picketing
those
in a
people.
parking lot.
I was one of those people.
I really feel sad for you that you have nothing better to do.
Shame on. Well, you know,
All right.
me and thousands of other
Okay.
people, millions of
Thousands?
other people.
You're in the minority, ma'am.
Millions of other
You're in
people.
the minority.
Stop shopping at Target. Target has
How many
had to-
people did you have there? Like 30 people?
How many people stop shopping at Target?
How many people? Miss, I'm going to say this one more time. I do one interview at a time.
Stop.
You're not on a microphone. If you would like to be interviewed, I will gladly do it next segment. But if you're going to shout at me when I'm trying to interview your friend, then I'm going to ask you to leave. All right, so
You're being very. How many people look at Target's numbers and you know they tanked just like Bud Light did? So I'm not in the minority. I'm in a very.
how many people did you have at
silent
your event?
Majority.
How many people were picketing?
We
20,
probably-
30?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe 30
I saw the
people
video.
per
Just
location.
like you, right, 30.
Okay.
Well, that's a great turnout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how many people stopped
great
shopping
turnout.
at Target? Ask Target. How many people canceled their cards at Target?
How many people cancel their? I don't know. You tell me. You seem to do all the research.
Look at Target stocks. They sure took
Look
a
at their
dive.
stock.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
they took a hit. You know they're having.
Well, I can
record
tell you
low
that
numbers.
there's not a lot of people like you that would picket outside of Target on a Sunday afternoon. People have better
Okay.
things to do than that. I think it's
Yeah.
pathetic.
Oh.
Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on from the transgender and the drag queen reading stuff.
Trans women are men.
Okay. Well, Again, you
having
could
autogynephilia
again-
doesn't make you a woman.
Again, you could have your opinions on transgenders. I really
trans
don't
women
care what
are
your
men.
opinions are on that. But on your website, it
Trans
says,
women are men.
okay, well, that's your opinion, and that's fine. I really don't care. I don't care what people do with their body. Obviously, you do. But
I don't want people mutilating themselves.
gotcha. What about women who get fake breast implants? What do you
I
think
think
about
it's
that?
sad. I wish
You think it's
women
sad?
wouldn't do that.
Gotcha.
But to compare that to
Mm-hmm.
when you give these young men puberty blockers and it prevents their penis from growing to full size and then it prevents them from ever having an orgasm the rest
MAGA
of their
supporters
life.
prevent my penis from going to full size. But
Okay,
anyway,
well,
that was a joke.
I
All
think
right, let's move on. Let's move
how
on.
we can be so brash with
Let's move on now. That was a
little
joke.
boys never having a climax for the rest of their lives,
Okay.
and that's why they're
So
killing themselves.
you're the one that's
not
making this
because of people
sexual,
like
not me.
Okay.
So let's talk about something that was on your website. When I say your website, you're a
My
part of
Children's Advocate.
My Children's Advocate.
My
It talks
Children's
about
Advocate.
oxygen deprivation
Yeah.
mask syndrome.
Are you an oxygen denier? Do you like wearing masks?
So can I finish, or are you just gonna? You're the one that's saying I'm interrupting you. So it says that on your website. And by the way, not only is there no evidence to support that, but I can also tell you that the Ohio State University Medical Center, the Mayo Clinic, healthchildren.org, American Society, Neurology.org, NYU, Langan Health, all say that it is false, that the neurological damage described can occur when there's oxygen deprivation. Medical helpers say there is no evidence linking either to masks. Now, it is linked to COVID, but it is not linked to masks, that there is neurological damage to people's brain. Yet on your website,
you deprive your brain of oxygen.
Yet on your website, and I want to be clear on this, you have zero medical experience, and you're claiming on your website medical misinformation that if kids wear masks, they get oxygen deprivation mask syndrome. How can you put medical misinformation on your website
Because
with no
we shared a
evidence to back
study?
it up?
Because
What
we
study?
shared a study
What study?
on the website.
What study?
It was. I don't.
Let me
again,
guess. You don't know what the study is.
No, I don't remember every study I shared. And you're being very disingenuous. If I
No,
can't
I'm not. I'm
name-
giving you
yes,
facts.
are.
I got
Okay.
facts right in front of me.
Okay. Okay, then let's go. What I can reference off the top of my head is the congressional hearings that happened where
Mm-hmm.
the people who were held accountable or quote unquote, who pushed these mandates were being asked about it, and they were showing it. They were being asked, can you prove that these were beneficial? Can you show that these didn't cause harm? And they couldn't prove anything, but they can show that kids were having learning disabilities because they're not seeing people's faces. We can show that the harm they
Yeah, but
did.
you're talking about oxygen deprivation
Yes,
mask syndrome,
because
which
you're
is
breathing
debunked.
in-
Completely
Okay,
debunked.
no.
No, I just gave you the list of all the people and all the infectious disease experts all over the country that say it's debunked, and what you're doing is you're spreading misinformation. There's no evidence.
hindering your child or anybody of oxygen by wearing a mask.
That's
which that does.
debunked. That's not true.
They do.
There's no neurological damage associated with wearing masks. It's been proven by basically every medical university across the country, yet you still have that on your website.
Well, I've seen a number of other studies that show that they do.
You've seen another of other studies.
I don't, just because I don't have them at the tip of my fingers.
Well,
doesn't
if
show.
you wanna
And
give
know
that to me,
what?
I'll look
and
at
I
it.
can see it we can see it with our own eyes with the kids in school who are. We hear teachers talking about, because of the mask mandates and because of all this, how children are further and further behind, especially the toddlers who
because they're wearing masks.
because they couldn't see faces, and that
Gotcha. What does that have to do with oxygen deprivation mask syndrome that you say is on your website?
You are breathing in your expelled air. It is.
Right.
It does lower your oxygen. You could.
Right.
You could. We could do
But you
a
don't
test
want to.
right now.
You don't want to
with-
listen to all the top doctors across the country and the
Did you
infectious
click on the
disease
link
experts.
and follow and see the study
I
that
saw
was
everything,
done?
and it was
Okay.
debunked. It was debunked. I looked. All I had to do was do 5
And
minutes
the
of research.
CDC. So like.
Not the CDC. I just listed. If you listen to me, healthchildren.org, American Society, Thoracic Society,
Okay,
Neurology.org,
what about American
NYU Health,
Medical-
and basically every infectious disease expert
Yeah, these
across
are
the
all-
country.
but
There was
you're
one
going
study
to
that was
governments
there was one
funded
study
items.
there was one study that was put up on Facebook, and it was completely debunked. And yet you have that on your website. And I think if you care about children, you wouldn't put out medical misinformation on your
What was
website.
America, Doctors for Freedom. What was?
Doctors for Freedom? Is that the doctor who said that there was a demon sperm doctor? I don't know. All right, well, listen.
But there were hundreds of other doctors speaking about how harmful the masks are. So you can pick and choose what studies you want. You can also find a study that says it's great to chop your son's dink off and tell him he's a girl, but it's not. It's not what happens in real life. We see with
well,
our
that
own
is real
eyes.
life because there are plenty of people that have had transgender surgery and they're doing just fine.
Yeah.
So I don't think you speak for the
they
entire
end up-
transgender
They
community.
tend to kill themselves after the surgery.
People
Usually
kill
about
themselves
5
before
to
they
10
have the surgery too.
Not at the rates they do
Okay,
after.
well, I'd love
Not
to
at
see
the
that
rates
study
they do.
as well.
Okay.
I
Well,
know,
they're
you'll
hard
give
to
it
come
to
by.
me.
You can find some in Sweden that
Okay.
show that if you just leave these kids alone, 80%
I'm interested.
of them grow
I'm
out
interested
of
in
it.
studies right here in the United States of America. 'Cause this is
Oh,
where
yeah.
we live. But
Oh,
hey,
well,
hey,
yeah, well, with our medical system being as corrupt as it is, it's really hard to
Okay.
find legit studies because
everything's
our
corrupt.
Oh yeah,
The
our
medical
medical
system-
system is so. Are you
Gotcha.
going to say our medical system's not corrupt?
Transgenders, gay people, Democrats, we're all corrupt, right?
Oh my gosh.
We're all corrupt. All right. Hey, you're entitled to your
Are
opinion.
you serious? Are you going to say our medical system, our pharmaceutical industry in the United States of America is not
Well,
deeply corrupt?
Here's what I'll say.
they're
Everything
pushing-
everything is corrupt except for my children's advocate. You guys are right about everything. Even though you can't give me one study to back up any of
No,
your
you
opinions
want me to
and
prove
no
one kid
evidence.
was molested
You're
in the
right.
library in front
Well,
of
listen, let's be
everybody.
clear on
That's-
this. Everybody with all these medical degrees and the infectious disease experts who all these people with all the degrees are wrong. And Stephanie
So-
from My Children's Advocate with no medical experience at all, who doesn't
Why-
know
why did-
anybody who's a drag queen.
Why did we
She's
have
right.
kids mask up? Why did we do that? To prevent the spread of COVID, right?
You know,
Wearing a mask prevent the spread of COVID?
you know,
No, but it hinders your oxygen. It makes you not be able to
right.
communicate.
According to one
Was
study
it
that you
helpful?
can't talk about.
Was it helpful to wear masks? Were masks helpful?
Was
in
it
stopping-
helpful to wear masks?
Did masks
I think
stop the spread of the virus?
I think what you need to do is speak to actually people with medical degrees and infectious disease experts, not somebody
Okay.
with no medical experience.
Dr. Robert
And they'll
Malone.
answer
There's
that
been
question
hundreds-
for
there's
you.
been many doctors speaking
Many
out about
doctors.
this.
Gotcha.
Okay,
All right.
so Robert Malone,
All right.
just schmuck. Yeah,
All right.
It means nothing.
Well, he makes appearances on Fox News and he sold books. I tend to believe people that are in the front lines in the hospitals that aren't
Yeah.
selling books that
the
actually are
ones who are
saving
being
lives every day.
fired for saying, "Hey, what we're doing is wrong."
Who was fired in
Yeah,
Las Vegas? We
Okay.
we can
No,
go on and on,
The same
but
people who just just get vaxxed.
we can go on and on. But hopefully we
Who
can
get vaxxed.
hopefully we can end by
Yeah.
cut the music for a minute here. I just want to say this. We can, obviously, we disagree on a lot of topics. And I think some of the things that you've said are absurd, but we can disagree on that. That's fine. Here's the difference between you and me, a big fundamental
There's a
difference. There is, but here's one big fundamental one. I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you don't want to take your kids to drag queen reading, you have all the right in the world. In fact, even though I disagree with you and I think it's pathetic, you have the right as an American to be in front of Target and to protest. I think it's ridiculous. That's my opinion.
Millions
But
of
you
other
have a
people
right to. Millions of people have not protested in front of Target. That's
They
not true.
protested with
So
their pocketbook.
you have the
So
right.
yes, they did
you have the
protest.
right to do that. Okay. You have the right not to take your kids. What I don't appreciate is you telling other people what they should or shouldn't do. They also have the right. Would you agree with me, even though you disagree?
You don't have the right to harm children.
Even though you disagree, and there's no evidence, you can't
Yeah,
prove
it
it that
is.
they're
It
harming
is.
children.
It's
We've been there.
harmful to children
You
and
don't. You
introduce
can't
them
prove
to
it. You
weird
say it is,
sexual
but
topics.
you have no actual evidence.
This is
Just
all
because you
part-
say it
this
doesn't
is-
mean it's true.
It's supposed. This is the whole normalizing drag queens and normalizing trans. It's supposed. It's just trying.
It's
to
not your
destroy-
business.
No, it's destroying the society
In your
which
opinion,
we live.
And guess what? I know this might
Name
be
a
hard for you to
society that
understand.
does well when
I
we
know
don't
this-
know what genders are.
I'm going to say
Name
something.
a society that has
I
done
know,
well once they didn't
I know
what
this might be
genders were.
hard. The concept might be hard to understand. Guess what? As an American, I have the right to go to Target or not to go to Target. As an American or a parent, I have the right to take my children to a drag queen reading or to not take them. It's our freedom in this country to do that.
Not to abuse children.
Okay, and again, you have zero evidence to prove that. You keep saying things, and you have zero evidence to prove that drag
sexualizing
queens.
children is
that
harmful to
you
children.
have no evidence that drag queen reading has that abuses kids. You just make these blatant
normalizes the
statements
weird
with
culture
zero,
of
in your opinion, with no
autogynephilia
evidence.
and-
In your
yeah.
opinion, with no medical degrees, no psych degrees, and no evidence.
Why
If
do
you're
you
going to
think
make
they
a
are
claim
pushing
like
it on
that,
kids?
have evidence to back it up.
Why
which
do you
you
think
don't.
they're pushing it on kids? Why do you think
It's
they're
not
pushing
being pushed.
this
Nobody's
gender-
forcing anybody to do anything.
Are you serious? Are all of our
Give me
our
a policy that's forcing kids to do something. Give me one policy.
Well, they're forcing it in schools where boys get to go and
Give me a specific example of a school
I don't know.
that's.
It
You
happens
don't know
here.
anything. You keep
I
saying
don't know
that.
the actual
You
code.
keep making
Here
generalizations
in
with no
Nevada,
evidence.
We have it where they're blending the bathrooms. We're having this all across the board where boys go into girls' bathrooms and it doesn't matter and it leads. That's what they're doing. This isn't.
Who's they? Who's they?
across the board, the legislations, whatever you're talking about.
So it's Democrats that are forcing people to go into women's and men's
Democrats who
bathrooms.
want there to be no such thing as gender. I mean, I'm not a big like super Republican, but I have to say it is the Democrats who
How
don't
do
know
these
what a
people
woman
affect
is.
you? I'm just curious.
Anytime a child is harmed, it
And give me an
affects
example.
society.
See, we're going in circles. You keep
No.
making blatant, generic statements like that.
Sexualizing children, whether it's from talking like
Drag queen reading to kids is not sexualizing children. You keep saying that they're not.
Introducing topics such as the LGBTQRS alphabet.
Saying
to
that gay is
children.
okay. That's
not
so. Okay, so let's
now you
go
have to
about that.
Explain what gay is. And
LGBT.
everything shows that.
So I want to be clear. You're against the LGBTQ alphabet, but you're not against
kids.
guns. You're not
kids.
against the Confederate flag. So you're against the LGBTQ alphabet to kids, but you're not against the Confederate flag. Would you be okay with the Confederate flag in a classroom?
Stupid.
No,
In
no,
the
I'm not
classroom,
stupid,
it
ma'am.
makes-
I'm
no,
not
this
stupid.
argument
I
is
think
stupid.
anybody listening to this
This is
interview
a very
knows who the stupid
argument.
person is. So don't
Okay.
call me stupid on my show if you want to get
What-
personal. You're telling me that you're okay with the Confederate
I'm
flag.
telling you, gay and lesbian agendas have nothing to do around children.
And where is that happening?
We can yell over each other.
Where is it happening?
In every stinking weirdo classroom where Jamie.
Give me an example of a teacher that
I
did
don't
it.
know her stinking classroom.
You don't know any
number
examples.
because I don't know. Yeah, because I don't know her classroom number.
So you're just assuming that it's happening.
Look at every teacher post. Oh my God! Like that's why there's gays against groomers because they're speaking up against this.
Where is it happening in the Clark County School District? Give me a teacher
Okay,
that is
Jamie-
indoctrinating our kids.
Okay, the same one I mentioned. All these
Okay,
teachers who show
so-
they have more transgender kids in their school, disproportionate race in other schools, and in Las Vegas when they
So
started
they're
this whole-
choosing where transgenders go to
No,
school. Is that what you're
because
saying?
it's a social contagion. And just like when they started this whole trans converting kids at school, there was 100
Who's
kids.
converting kids at schools?
The school district.
Give me an
They're
example
allowed-
of somebody that was converted because of their teacher.
There are 100 kids the first year.
I didn't ask you about 100 kids. Give me one
that were
example of a
put on
teacher
the
that was.
trans. What's it called? The gender support plan. The gender support plan. There were 100 kids the first year. The second year, there's 200.
So there are kids that say they were
there's
converted because of their
370.
teacher.
Because it's a
Is there one
social-
kid that's ever said that? Or a
it's
parent that said that their
social
child?
contagion.
Okay, can you give me an example?
There's a
We're
number
going
of
in cir-
parents who talk about that their
Can
kids
you give
get
me an
indoctrinated
example
at
of a
school.
teacher that converted a student to be transgender in the Clark
I'm
County
gonna
School
say
District?
Sarah, or is that her name? The one
Who?
Is that Jamie? Yes, I'm going to say she's responsible. If
Who's
that's what-
Jamie? Who's that?
She's one of the teachers. Again,
So there's
who
a
gets
teacher named
praised.
Jamie
She gets praised by
who
her school
converted
for
a
being-
teacher to be transgender.
No,
I'm confused.
you're so.
So tell me, I just want to hear. Give me an
Again,
example.
for
I'm
the
open
good
to it.
time, We're creating a culture where children don't. There's no such thing as gender. It's sexual content is being
That's
introduced.
not what
at
I
young
asked you.
ages.
I ask you questions. I would appreciate
And
if you could
I'm
answer it.
saying because a teacher like Jamie gets praised at her school for being
So she-
non-binary,
so there's a teacher
she
na-
gets
okay, let's
celebrated for
backtrack.
it. The kids see that.
Let's
and now
backtrack.
they want to get praised
Okay.
for not knowing what
Let's,
gender they are.
okay, so hold on, Stephanie. Let's backtrack. I'm willing to listen to you.
You're
I just want to
not.
hear.
You have this whole thing. You support this.
I'm
weird
trying to ask you
stuff.
questions. I'm
just
trying to ask
wanna
you questions.
You just want to defend why it's okay for men to dress up as women and be.
I don't care what
You
men
do.
dress up as.
You do.
I could care less.
You
No,
want
you do. I don't.
You want children to be sexualized. And
No,
I'm
I
really
don't.
worried About you. I
You've
think your
never
archive
been.
needs to be
You've never
investigated.
been. You've never been to a drag queen reading. I
I know
have.
what
There's
groomer red
nothing
flags
sexual.
are.
You have
I
no
know
idea
they're-
what you're talking about.
I do.
Now let's go back to Jamie. I don't know who this is, but apparently there's a teacher in the Clark County School District that you are claiming. What's Jamie's last name?
I don't know her last
Okay.
name. It's something
Okay.
stupid.
You know everything
But
about
I'm
the story,
gonna
but you don't know her last name.
I'm going to say because
I'm asking you specifically about this case,
you know
and you're not letting me ask the question.
No, I heard your question,
Okay.
and I'm telling you want me to say this child was converted by her.
You're making that
And
claim,
what
not me.
What I'm saying is, in a school where your teachers are celebrated for being how they have sex, and that
Everything
they
is
don't know
general
what gender they
statements
are.
with you. You don't have any actual real evidence to prove anything that you've said in this interview.
That this is a social contagion, and the more
That's
we
your opinion with no medical degree, but that's fine. You're entitled to
Okay,
that
then
opinion.
why is it only happening in blue states?
I'm-
Why is this not
okay,
happening
well, that's
in Iowa?
Another
And you can
idiotic
see it.
statement.
No, you can see it
just
with your
said,
own
why
eyes.
won't you let me ask the question?
You
You had
asked
said
it,
there's.
it's stupid.
I asked you for. No, it's not
Yes, it
stupid.
is.
A lot
I've
of
already
things you're
asked it.
saying are stupid.
Okay.
And a lot of people would agree with me on that. Republicans and Democrats. You said there's a woman named Jamie.
Yes.
Don't know this story.
And I've already
You don't
said
know her
that.
last name. She's a teacher in Clark County. I'm asking you for direct evidence of her forcing kids to be transgender.
And I just
Give me
told
that
you-
example.
I just don't have to repeat myself. I just told you I'm not going to be able to say this kid was.
I'm
transgender
shocked
by
you're
her.
not gonna be able to
But what
say.
I am going to
Okay.
be able to tell
I'm shocked.
is that in a school where that is promoted, You see more kids that are trans. You see a
Gotcha.
school where a teacher
Okay.
like that is praised.
Gotcha.
And it's proof it's a social contagion.
Gotcha.
The same
Are
way
you
that
okay?
this
Are
is
you
happening-
okay? Since you defended the Confederate flag, would you be okay with a Confederate flag in a classroom?
The Confederate flag isn't having kids have anal sex with each other.
Okay, so you would. So just for the
It
record,
doesn't bother me.
So just for the record, okay, I just want to be clear.
And if you knew the real
Stephanie is
history of the-
okay with the Confederate flag
Yeah,
in
just
classrooms.
like a number of black people in
Gotcha,
the South fly
gotcha,
it, and
gotcha,
I'm not offended
gotcha.
by them flying
So
it. either,
I'm pretty
because I'm not
confident most.
sheltered.
I'm pretty confident most black people in this country would want a Confederate flag in a classroom. so
you're
you're
from the
okay.
South to
So
see how many black
Stephanie is
people fly
okay
it.
with a
You should make a
Confederate
trip.
flag in a classroom,
Make a
but
trip to
not a
Arkansas.
gay pride flag. Is that a fair
Because I
assessment
think
of your
talking
opinion?
about sex around children is weird.
I'm asking you a
That's why.
question because I want to get
Yes.
your opinion. I don't
don't
want to put
care.
words
Yes,
in
the
your mouth.
Confederate flag represents being a rebel. I'm not offended
Gotcha.
by kids talking about that.
Gotcha.
I am offended by kids being introduced to anal sex.
Gotcha. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
how does a gay pride flag talk about that?
Because you're proud of how you have sex.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's proud of being who you
No,
are.
it's proud of how you have
So I want to
sex,
be
not
clear.
who you are,
If a
how you have
Confederate
sex.
flag to Stephanie is a positive, it's about being a rebel,
It's being a rebel.
and the gay pride flag is about telling kids to have a certain type of
Well,
sex.
it's saying gay sex.
Okay.
So if boys, it means anal sex. Girls, it does. It means scissoring, I guess. I don't know
Okay,
what you call it.
interesting. Okay, I would disagree with you on the Confederate flag. I think most people in this
Okay.
country would say it represents racism, but
well, yeah,
but
people-
and I would say when I
Only
see it,
recently. Why
even
is
though I
that
am
not a
not,
big
even
deal
though I am
years
not
ago?
gay, I would say that people that are gay in this country, I think they should be treated as equals.
Yeah.
You
But
say
don't
yeah,
talk about
but
how they have sex around kids.
how is a gay pride flag doing that in a classroom?
Because it says just same way. If I
What does
were
it say on a gay pride flag?
the flag itself represents
Represent sex?
gay. Yeah, gay.
Oh, okay.
sexuality.
So okay. I just listen.
What
I just,
makes someone gay?
Gotcha.
It's how
okay.
they have sex. I
Gotcha.
don't
Okay.
under-
So
you
a
also
gay
don't think drag queens
so a
are
gay
sexual, so
pride
they're
flag represents how gay people have sex,
What
and the
else is it?
Confederate flag represents being a rebel. Okay.
What
Fair
does,
enough.
What does the gay flag
Okay,
mean? It
okay.
means I'm gay. What
All
does
right.
what being gay mean?
All right.
It means you have sex with your same
Well, listen.
gender.
Well, listen.
I don't know
for
how-
the record,
Yeah.
I until you started getting personal with me, I didn't call you any names. I didn't call you stupid
I
until
said
you
your
called.
arguments were
Okay,
stupid,
well,
and I made
didn't.
that very clear. I said
did-
they were
I
stupid
didn't insult
questions.
you. I didn't call you any names, even though I think you're extremely misguided. But you can be a mother and do whatever you want with your kids, so
And
long as
protect
it's
all
not
children.
against the law. But you have no right to tell other parents what to do. Those
telling them
parents
they're
can
bad
do.
parents.
Okay, well, I think you're a bad parent.
Okay.
I think
My
you have
kids
bigoted
aren't
views.
lost in their own
Okay,
body.
well, I think you have bigoted views on the world and on the Confederate flag and on people who are gay and transgenders. You treat people differently because they're not like you, and I think that's a
Because they
bigoted
harm
way of.
children.
I think
That's
that's
the big difference.
Well, that's.
I never have a problem with just gay people.
I think that's a
being gay.
bigoted. I think that's a bigoted way of
And
thinking.
I think gays against groomers feel the same way as
Okay,
I do.
you're
There's
right.
a
So if you're
major-
gay, you groom kids. I got
There's
you.
gays
Okay.
against groomers.
Right,
No, because normal gay people know that they don't talk about their sex life with children.
Okay.
So that's where that's the line.
Gotcha. So if you're gay, you groom your kids. If you're a,
I said if you talk about your gay sex life with children, that's grooming.
If
Not
you're-
all gay people are. There are normal gay people who don't want to talk about their sex life with
the Carl. Hi, Carl.
Hey, hi, Brian, Stephanie.
Hi.
I think you know my background. I'm a retired psychologist. And listening to Stephanie, I think she might need a little deep analysis, but I will go into that.
Okay.
But you mentioned about people being gay, turning gay. Well, did you know that 95 to 96% of all gay people are born that way? And I'll tell you why. Because when they're in the womb, they're babies. They're not born yet. Their genes and chromosomes are girl. That's going to become a baby has more
I want
male
to stop you real
genes and
quick.
chromosomes
You
than
were a
female.
clinical psychologist for how many years? Did you say?
Oh, about 45.
Okay, so Stephanie, what do you disagree with Carl with what he just said?
I mean, I don't. What's the gay gene? How do you see that? How can you prove that?
Testosterone? How much testosterone
Because there's
and
also been a
estrogen
lot
is in
of
your body?
studies that say that.
So you think being gay is a choice? People just wake up one day and say, hey, you know what? I think I just want to have sex with a man or a woman.
No, I do think there
What
are
am-
children who have been converted to being gay, and there's men who've been talking
What-
about that, about being molested at a young age and having that being their first experience.
Okay, so you're talking about sexual abuse, which is completely
Leading-
different
no,
to what
but
I'm
that
talking
has-
about. I
but
have
you
no
see
doubt
that a
that there
lot,
I have
that
no
children
doubt
who've been
that
abused
I'm trying to
tend
agree
to,
with you.
but what I'm saying, so I'm clear because you tend to mistake things. I have seen a lot of where children who are abused tend to
You're talking about exceptions when if somebody is sexually molested, it could change their sexual preference because of some horrible things
Yes.
that happen to them.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
never seen the gay gene, though.
I don't. Okay, there's no such thing as a
He
gay
just said
gene.
that
okay?
there was a
Carl, do you agree with me that? And by the way, many people that I know, I don't even know if you know any gay people. You didn't. You said
Yes, I
okay.
do.
You do. So the gay people you know say that one day they just decided to be gay.
I didn't say that. I didn't
what are you
say. I
saying?
never said the people
Don't you
I
think
know.
that it's possible that people know when they're gay when they're 5 or 6 years old?
I said I didn't say I don't agree with the 95%. Is what I'm saying.
do
I
you
said
mean
there
that-
are kids. He said 95% are born gay, and what I'm
Oh, I
saying,
absolutely believe. You think Richard Simmons was born straight?
I don't know. I don't
You
know his
don't know.
childhood.
You think
But,
Richard Simmons
no,
was born straight?
I don't know. I don't
don't
know what
know
he
that.
was like.
Okay.
I do
Okay.
know. I have heard other people talk
So
about
what percentage of
being-
gay people do you think it's a choice where they just wake up one day from being straight and say, hey, you know what? I think I want to be gay.
I'm not saying that someone wakes up at 15.
Well-
I'm saying that somebody. Now, I do see, especially with women who go back and forth and they're straight and they're gay and they go. I think that probably stems more from unhealthy
Carl,
relationships.
hey,
with
Carl, I
others.
appreciate the call.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the last word here I got about 10 seconds for you, then I get
Yeah,
to
she
the call. Go ahead,
doesn't,
Carl.
she doesn't know what she's talking about. What I'm saying is, in the womb, the female, who are going to be females have more male genes and chromosomes than the boy, and just the reverse.
Well, everybody,
Sometimes getting more
there are
men
people that are born with more.
women,
There are
yes.
people that are born with more
Thank you for
estrogen than
explaining that to
others.
me.
There are people that are born with more testosterone than
Yeah.
others. I think that's basic
That's
101.
basic.
Carl,
Thank you for
I
that,
appreciate the
Carl.
call, my
You
friend.
just
Thank you
live
very
in
much. Now we're going to go to Kevin.
Sure.
Thank you, Carl. Kevin is next on Pushing the Limits, 702-221-7283. Hi, Kevin. What's up?
Hi, I just want to throw my 2 cents in.
Sure.
I've actually worked security at a drag show and a children's reading, and I can give. One thing I got to ask Stephanie is one thing: does she understand that there is a difference between watching a drag show at a bar as instead of a library?
Yeah.
And my other question is does she also understand that it's a performance? Is it okay for kids to get read to by a Marvel superhero
Yeah.
and a Disney princess? There's no
Disney's
difference.
losing me, but
It
yes.
is. It's
No.
an actual performance, and no one's whipping junk out at these shows
That
from
has
drag
been the
shows.
case that
and
some of these drag queens.
No, it has
you can
not.
see through their pantyhose.
Yeah,
There's been some
again,
situations with that.
Brian, ask her where she saw it.
I've been
and where it is
asking her that
verified.
forever.
There's been
It
hundreds of
doesn't happen.
viral videos and undercover stings of these things. So I mean, just because I don't have every, I mean that's why parents
Right,
have
you
gotten
don't have
more
any
and more
evidence.
outraged.
There's
That's
no
why
evidence
parents are getting
to
more
it.
outraged as they're seeing more and more videos of children being introduced as
Again,
drag
it's hard
queens,
for
and
me
it's
to
more
listen to
upsetting.
that when I hear a generic statement that, well, just look at all the viral videos. I can tell you, me personally, and I think you know this,
Look
Kevin,
with your own eyes.
I've been to drag queen reading. I went to one downtown in Vegas. Not one thing was sexual. None of the outfits were sexual. The only thing I heard was, let's treat everybody as equals and be happy who you are. Geez, what a horrible
Yeah,
thing to
I
tell
have
kids.
kind of feeling
Kevin,
that
I
might be like a
appreciate
normal-
the call, Kevin, and you made some great points. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, 702. Thank you, Kevin. 702-221-7283. Going to try to rip through these calls. Jeff, you're next. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, so I have a couple of comments. I'm 57 years old. I was married for 10 years. I have 3 biological children. I've been in the same-sex marriage for 25 years. I did a drag show for 10 years in San Diego. I'm a performer as well as a previous drag artist. The layers of clothing that we put on our bodies to hide and make it look like a woman, to make it look like there might be flesh peeking out, is not flesh. The Hooter girls and the cheerleaders are showing real flesh, and these people are taking their kids to see the real flesh on those girls, and that's not sexualized. But then people want to complain or say that we are somehow sexualizing it. No entertainment anywhere I ever went into had children attending these shows. The only
Because
shows that I
drag isn't
did for
for
children,
children, you're right.
I dressed up as Mother Gothel from Disney. I did the girl from Encanto. I have anytime I would perform for children, it was for children.
Right.
Why do you
Not
want to dress up
once
as a
were-
woman for children? Why
because
do
they
you
want to be
do that?
entertained. I'm an entertainer. I'm an actor.
Why does a clown want to
when
put on
I do
makeup
a
and dress
show,
for children? Why does a clown want to
I'm
wear all
doing-
that makeup for children?
Yeah,
It's the
why
same
does
thing.
any actor dress
I
up
think
in
a
a
little bit.
costume? It's a costume.
They are both clowns, but I mean,
Gotcha. So you have a
But
problem with
with the
clowns
costume,
indoctrinating
but
your
that's
kids
you're
juggling.
being
Yeah.
insulted.
Gotcha.
well, isn't
You're
it
being
funny that they're
insulted
not
when you're
trying
saying
to
you're
do
both
clown
Jeff, let me ask you a
story
question.
hours though?
Jeff, let me ask you a question. Jeff, what does the gay pride flag mean to you as a gay man? What does that mean to you? Maybe you could
It says
educate
that
Stephanie on that.
I am an equal person in this world, and I am tired of having to hide.
Okay,
Exactly.
but what are you
So,
proud of
do you know
when
how
you
many,
wave that flag?
Wait, Stephanie, do you know how many people are asexual or don't have sex at all, but are still in the LGBTQIA community?
Okay,
They're not
yeah, a
having
lot of
anal
ugly
sex
people
or
don't
vaginal
have
sex.
It doesn't mean like
No, but there are straight
So now you're
people
going to
that
insult
there
people
are
for their
straight
looks?
people that don't
Stephanie?
have.
That's
There
very
are
mature.
straight
You're really
people
good
that
mom.
don't-
Kids would be very proud of you.
They are.
You just
should be very
made fun
proud
of
of the way-
ugly people?
Yeah.
Is that what you teach
we
your
can't
kids?
make fun of ugly people now? Oh my god.
You set a great example for your kids. Stephanie.
Stephanie, let's wait. Calm down.
Why-
You're wearing makeup. You're dyeing your hair. You're wearing glasses. You're changing your look.
I do
Anything you
color
alter to make
but it
yourself
doesn't
look
make me think
pretty.
I'm the opposite gender. What
But
do you get out of dressing
I
up as a
dressing up
woman?
in a costume doesn't make me think I'm the opposite gender.
Okay.
Being a drag person does not think they want to be a
Why are you
woman.
gonna dress up for
It's a
kids?
performance. It's acting. It's pretend. Halloween is pretend.
Right.
Your kids dress up in a costume. They're not. When I go on stage and I'm being a killer in the show, does not mean
What
that
was your
I am
drag
a
name? What was your
murderer.
drag name?
What
Is that
difference does
for-
it make?
I'm gonna guess it has something sexual to it, like
No, my drag name was
Okay.
Rotundra.
First of all, don't use
Hey,
that language
hey,
on the air.
Stephanie,
Second of all, you're
listen.
making another judgment like you've made about an entire
Listen,
group of people the
Stephanie.
entire show. But let me ask him and be respectful
My
because
drag
obviously
name
you're
was
being very disrespectful
Rotundra.
because he's gay, because you have a
it's
problem
not
with
because
gay
he's
people
gay.
because you're a
It's because
bigot.
he dresses up.
Kevin,
as
Kevin,
a
my
she wants
drag
to know what your
name-
drag name is, and she's making more judgments
I'm
about you.
telling
I'm
her.
surprised.
I'm telling her, but she's not listening.
Yeah, go ahead,
it's
Kevin.
Rotundra. It
Is
was
that sexual?
Rotundra.
Oh, what a shocker.
that-
Stephanie
I'm
was
just-
wrong again.
Oh, I was
What a
wrong the
shocker.
one time that drag.
Kevin, I am glad Rotunda because I'm a bit.
Yeah.
I was a big person.
Yeah.
Oh, Rotunda.
So I make fun of my weight, Stephanie.
I
But
get it.
again, you are sitting there. You can't see beyond the scope of what you are. I have 3 wonderful, productive
Kevin,
children.
let me
They're
say
all
this in
3.
closing, Kevin. I'm glad there are people
Nothing.
like you out there, sir. You sound like a very nice
Thank you.
man. I'm sure you're a very good father. I see absolutely nothing wrong with what you're doing, and I support people like you, and I appreciate you calling
Thank
into the
you.
show. Okay, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate
Out
that.
of gynophilia comes in all
Oh,
shapes
oh,
and
that
sizes.
was Jeff that called in. I'm sorry. We got Kevin next, right? 702-221-7283. Let's quickly go to Kevin. Kevin, what's up, man?
This is Gary, but that's good enough. Hey, listen, I'm inviting you to the second annual Atheist Agnostic Pride Parade.
Thank you.
The first one didn't go so good because all these dark clouds came out of nowhere and thunder and lightning, and everybody ran for their
You
lives.
know what? I've never been to a gay
yes.
pride parade. I have absolutely nothing wrong. I don't see anything wrong with it. They have the right to do what they want to do. And anyway, I appreciate the call, Gary. Thank you very much for the invitation. 702-221-7283. John is next. What's up, John?
Hi. Question for Stephanie. Do you see the
No.
ability, can you see the other people's viewpoints on the Confederate flag?
I think people have been misled on what it believes or on what it means and what it represents. Because I mean, you can go down to the South right now and see people of every color flying it. I feel it's just another tool to divide people. I feel it's a very disingenuous argument. That's all. I feel like anytime race is brought up, it's just trying to tear us apart.
Do you think, I want to ask, stay on the line. Do you think it's easier, Stephanie, for a gay kid to go to school today than it was for them 25 years ago?
Yes, because they get
Oh, you
praised.
do?
Oh, 100%. Because they get cheered. Yeah,
Do you know that?
Their
Do you
mom
know that
wear
in the
them like
school,
a
it's a
bag.
fact that at least one gay person is openly terrorized and bullied every single day?
Yeah, that could be that they got misgendered nowadays. So I really don't really buy that.
Okay.
How many other kids? I mean, I had a black boy at my son's school say he was going to shoot him and come to a house and shoot us because we voted for Trump.
Okay.
Do I say that that's indicative of every kid? No. I think that's
Okay.
that kid is probably a bad
John,
kid.
if you don't mind me asking, are you an African American?
I'm not. No.
You're not. Okay. Well, and
always-
I would say the reason why I asked, and I don't need the play-by-play in the studio, especially if you're not on the air, as I've asked you about 8 times now, but The reason why I asked if he was African American or not, because we were discussing the Confederate flag, and that kind of has something to do with black people and the history of black people. But you think the Confederate flag is some sort of rebel, but a gay pride flag, sexual.
Were you offended when Billy Idol used to wear it all the time? Why are drag queens trying to reach
I'm offended. I'm offended.
people
I'm offended, as
Uh-huh.
most people in this country, when anybody endorses the Confederate.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
yes, I am.
Just recent.
Just like I was offended when you
in the last 5
just like I was offended when you wanted to bring up Nazi Germany, where 7 million Jews were murdered, and you
Okay.
brought that into the
But
conversation.
even
Comparing that to drag
even then,
queen,
you're not being
which is
authentic
absolutely
on what
absurd.
I said. I said that the Nazis love to do weird experiments on kids, just like they're doing now with these weird gender
Who's next, real
reassignment
quick?
surgeries. It's all
Gerald?
hand in
Okay.
hand.
702-221-7283. Let's go to Gerald. Gerald is next. Hello, Gerald. And then we got to run because we have another guest. on the line.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gerald.
This woman has no lie. Yeah. This woman has no lie. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you
That
for the
was
call.
great.
702-221-7283.
Awesome audience.
All right. Well, you know what? I have an audience, and you're not going to insult my audience.
No, that was
You've been
awesome.
very insulting since you got here, and I don't appreciate that. I was actually going to. I was
You're the one
actually.
who wants to groom children. not
Okay.
me.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't want to groom children. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And you know, at the end of this interview, I was going to say I appreciate you coming in, but if you're going to insult me like that, then I don't.
Okay.
Okay,
You don't have to appreciate me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't appreciate you insulting me on my own show. You've done that repeatedly in the last 90 minutes.
I don't appreciate you trying to use disingenuous arguments.
A
And
disingenuous
yeah.
argument is asking for
Yeah.
evidence based on
No,
an
you're
opinion.
trying to say,
That's the dumbest thing I've
you're
ever heard in my
saying
life.
I
All right.
said the killing of 7 million Jews was okay.
So here's the deal.
You
Here's
know
the
what
deal.
you're saying was disingenuous.
You're the one who brought
I
up
was saying
Nazi
the
Germany, not
Nazis,
me.
the Nazis were the ones who
You're
did the
making a
weird ass
comparison,
experiments on
Stephanie.
children, just like you're
Stephanie,
doing with the
you're making
gender.
a comparison between Nazis
Nazis
and drag
doing
queens.
weird experiments on
Okay,
children.
okay.
And
All right.
yeah.
I'm going to
yeah,
say this
that's
in
what I'm saying.
I'll say this in closing, and you can leave if you want, or I'll say it to your face.
say it
I
to
think
my
you're
face.
despicable.
I
think
think
you're.
you're
no. Cut
bad.
her mic
Anyone-
off. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm done with you. Get out of here. You're despicable. Your organization is despicable, and you can have a nice day. I'm done with you. You're never coming back. Get out of this. Get out of this building. Get out of this building. You want us to call the police? Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. Bye. 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 You're never coming back.